pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Survival of No Limits. So, let's see what we got to talk about here, because after all, there's quite a ways, well, from getting to the very end as we know it, in the series that is. On its current season, what we got today is episode 73, Spoilage. As you know, food is almost unpredictable. But depending on what kind of food you get, you could be sure that it only has a limited amount of time before it goes into spoilage. And spoilage is without a doubt a pretty dangerous way of having something to eat. It's pretty dangerous, especially when you ingest something that could potentially be very hazardous to your health, or it's just simply lethal in whatever kinds of gruesome ways that you could possibly imagine. And there are lots of foods, as a matter of fact, that happen to go bad in just a short period of time. Most of the time, we could probably rely on things like milk to go bad in just 18 hours, most meats to go bad within a span of 24 hours, baked goods to go bad within 36 hours if they're not kept in a freshly state of any sorts, and then of course most organic stuff like fruits and vegetables to go bad in just a few weeks, depending on what kind of fruits and veggies you have. But it is without a doubt that all foods, as a matter of fact, happen to have some sort of lifespan. Whether it's short or it's long, it's mostly dependent on what you pick up with your hard-earned cash. I myself actually went on a bit of a grocery spree some time ago, and man, I tell you, I spent nearly $88 on a bunch of things. Ooh, totally unexpected. From Lay's barbecue chips to a few packages of Morningstar Farms Impossible meats, including burgers, chickens, and pizza-related stuff. I tell you, I myself am wanting to become a full-time vegetarian, committed amongst anything, but that's going to be rather hard to do, especially with all the peers that I have around me who keep wanting me to eat all sorts of meats whenever it's possible. And I myself, I don't really see too much of a problem with meats. I just have a bit of an ethics sort of code that lots of people happen to have when it comes to consuming meats. It might seem ridiculous at first, but one of these days, maybe even you might have that same sort of feeling that I myself have had for years and years. Albeit I was a child at one point, and I never knew any better. I was practically eating meats like crazy, whether it be bacon, steaks, or otherwise. But these days, I try to distance myself from it as much as I possibly can, for the safety of potentially my own health and a lot of other people's. But the truth is, meats are a little bit more than just your typical sort of ethical values being flushed down the toilet. It actually turns out that, well, they seem to be carcinogenic, especially the processed stuff. Fitting as, well, not everything can be done traditionally. But in terms of spoilage amongst everything else, it turns out that there are a couple things that happen to remain almost indefinitely and can last for very long periods of time. Meals ready to eat certainly happen to be pretty lengthy amongst any means, but they can go bad depending on how long ago that you have bought them. But you can also find canned goods, including, well, beef stew, SpaghettiOs, and sometimes other things as well, that you can pretty much have for a pretty long period of time. But it would certainly be necessary to have the kind of canned goods out there, like canned fruits and vegetables, that would most of the time not require any cooking, in order to keep a good survival shelter put into play. And then of course there are cereals and grains, those of which can last for quite a while. And there are also actually quite a few ways to help preserve food for longer periods of time. extending the duration of how long it would take to spoil certain items like fish and bread can actually be averted. Simply put, by utilizing certain techniques like salting fish, drying bread, or potentially utilizing the juices to the best of your advantages. Utilizing juices as a way to prevent oxidization to some fruits and vegetables would also prove to be pretty healthy. But for the most part, we don't necessarily have everything like that put into account, so this would of course lead to some people not wanting to have these kind of tips utilized to the best of their advantage. But then again, we are looking at a world that could potentially go bad before our very eyes. And then we're also going to have much bigger problems than we've ever encountered. That is without exaggeration. But by any means, hopefully we're able to have a lot of perseverance and a lot of skills set aside, so this way we will have to worry about nothing when it comes to the apocalypse, the potential end of the world as we know it. With that said, that's all for today. If you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.